What's up, everyone? Welcome. We are live right now on Cannabis, and if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. We've got a great show for you today. We have Neptune Seedbank, and he's brought together some homies of his. We've got Umami and Harrison. We're going to be talking all about what's going down with them. I'm sure we're going to be talking about strains. So if you're a grower, stay tuned. We've got a great episode for you today. But first, I need to give a couple shout outs. Shout out to everyone in the Cannabis community. You can join us in our app. Just search Cannabis in the App Store and use the code GROWERSLOVE for 50% off. Your support helps us do giveaways that we do after every show. We do giveaways every month. And they help us just keep the show going. So thank you so much for your support. Also, shout outs to our friend Lost Coast Plant Therapy. If you need any sort of IPM spray to knock down powdery mildew, botrytis, bugs, things like that, make sure to check out lostcoastplanttherapy.com. And SacredThreeMushrooms.com. We just did an episode with them about a week or so ago. Look up SacredThreeMushrooms.com. If you want to grow your own magic fungi at home, you can get a nice grow kit and even spores sent right to your house, and you can get growing. And then our last couple shout outs, I'm going to throw it over to JR.
All right, first we're going to do our Tiki announcements. He's got his crazy love spell he's doing this month. You get a pack of the Gorilla Candy BX, free pack with every order at TikiSeeds.com. And then for our episode today, and I like this, we're going to start doing these Nugs deep with Neptune Seedbank. And so this is going to be kind of a regular thing we want to do at least once a month. And so today he was kind enough to get Umami seeds on here for us, which I'm super stoked about. And so I thought, of course, we would talk about one of their varieties a little bit while we have them on here. And one of the ones I pulled off of Neptune Seedbank was the Rainbow Sugar. And it's the Fizz by Zuki. And the reason I chose it is because I'm a sucker for that contrasting frost on color. I like the reds, the blues, and the purples, but I also want the frost of the flower to really show and shine through. And the other thing I wanted to mention is if you go on Neptune's site, it was nice of them to offer different photos of different phenos of what you're going to get out of the pack. And a lot of I think that's kind of sometimes disingenuous when people throw up this, super special cut, and maybe an uneducated seed buyer might think, oh, that's what I'm going to get when I crack these beans. So I thought it was really kind for them to show, a bunch of different phenos on there of what you might get out of, your pack of seeds. So I thought that was really cool. And Chase, while we have you on, can you talk about the Rainbow Sugar?
Yeah. Man, can't say enough good things about Rainbow Sugar. I mean, so the Fizz was a pheno that I got from my homie Green Snowman, who's up in Maine, who made the cross. It's a cherry pie by Fab Fuel. And like the number 14 pheno was the one that it kind of got like dwarfed out in the bloom room, like as we were doing the pheno hunt. Like, how things just kind of, I just let them go wild.
Yeah.
A little bit, and it just got dwarfed in the corner, didn't really get enough love, and I was gonna toss it. I was like, okay, this is kind of dinky, like whatever, like not that great. And then I like brushed up against it at one point, like a week later, and I just got hit with this fucking hardcore grape cherry gas funk, just like funk, like so intense. And it was only like week 4 at that point. So immediately I knew, like, okay, maybe this is going to be a keeper. And then, surprise, surprise, if you treat her right, she grows really well. And, we didn't overwater, didn't dwarf her out. And she just had like the most intense, amped up cherry pie terps, like of all time, which
is my favorite hash of all time. And so did you find any kind of stability issues as you were running through the phenos because of what cherry pie brings to the table?
Not really, no. I mean, like I think the problem is that there's a lot of cherry pie cuts out and about, and like S1s and a few other things. And like the one that I have has been confirmed by Pie Guy as the original cherry pie. And I've grown it like, I don't know, 50 plus times, and I've only seen it spit one time. And out of that one time it spit, there was no, like, I'm pretty sure the pollen is sterile because there was no seeds anywhere.
Nice.
And so then, I mean, that fizz cut never had any herm issues. And I had a couple other phenos of that it was actually called Cherry Flambe was what the cross was called. And then I labeled the 14 the fizz because it had that real like when you smell a soda pop on accident, you get that super, it's like you get that exact experience when you smell it, like fucking super acidic, super fizzy all up in your nose. And so then we made a bunch of crosses with the fizz, and like I don't remember any herming in our in-house testing. Of like, I don't know, we probably popped like well over 100 of those. So
wow,
less than 1%. Even if there are some herms, it's less than 1% herm rate, which, as far as I'm concerned, is fucking spectacular. Totally worth it. But that rainbow sugar just bangs. The Zucchi is a male we've been working on for a long time. Like, we started that project in 16, and then that's like 7 or 8 generations deep of crossing and hybridizing to the point that we got to Zucchi. And so that's been like our staple male. And every time we do a fem project, we cross whatever we want to go with to the Zucchi and then find a female from that line. And that's what ends up getting reversed. So we add, I don't know if this is scientifically accurate, but I always felt that injecting male genetics every other generation was really critical for success on the fem side. Because if you just fem, eventually I feel as though you will have, like, there will be more problems, as opposed to bringing in a male every other.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of ask you about that down the line in the interview, because that's something I was always curious about. What a male really brings to the table. But first, we always like to start our interviews off by asking folks how they fell in love with the plant, and I'll start with Harrison. He looks a bit younger than us. I can't see you, Chase, but I'm assuming. So, Harrison, how did you fall in love with the plant, and how's it kind of got you on the path you're on today?
I'd say the first time I really connected with it, I was living in the Caribbean, and I got a little 10 sack of weed, and it was more seeds than it was weed. And I decided I should do something with those seeds. And so I popped those and just kind of grew them like guerrilla style in the forest behind my house in like a little opening. And I didn't get anything to maturity, but just from that point on, I knew like this was something I enjoyed doing, and it was something I was going to keep doing. And it's just been kind of balls to the wall since then, never stopped.
Nice. And Chase, you?
Oh man, we were in Maryland visiting family, and my mom took us to the like FBI museum, right? And we were walking through the very end of the FBI museum, or maybe it was the very beginning, I don't remember, but there was like a whole display case of dangerous and illegal stuff, right? It was like pipe bombs, guns, and like all kinds of crazy nonsense and poison. And then the very end was a little terracotta pot with like a little tiny fake weed plant in it, And I was like, enemy
number one.
Like, I don't know about that. That's weird. Like, huh. And then that triggered like, the interest, because I just couldn't get it out of my head. Like that seems so innocent. That can't possibly be that big of a deal. And, that was it.
That's great, man. That's
curiosity.
Similar to our high school they would have the guy come in and he would lay it all out on the table, all the drugs, you know what I mean? And then there'd be that little section of weed, and we would just clown that guy on how shitty his fucking weed was. Be like, we don't fucking buy weeds with seeds in it, man. And we would just clown that fool. That's good. So how did you start Umami Seeds, and what sparked the Japanese influence?
Well, so I've been in the game, for a while. Always was interested in breeding and growing and making seeds. And so I knew eventually we'd actually start a seed company. But I wanted to get to the point where I had like enough of a library built up, that I could really like put my best foot forward. So once I had enough of that library, it was like 2016, I was finishing one of my other businesses and had a bunch of free time and was like, well, let's get after it. And then, when you're building something like this, it's kind of good to have some sort of ethos behind it. So the ethos for the business was, which the thing I always liked the most was flavor, right? So it's like, what means, what are those terps that you can't quite describe? And so I started calling stuff umami terps, because it was like, what is that? What is that? What is the umami flavor, right? It translates to like deliciousness, roughly. So it just all fit. And then, I took Japanese in high school. My dad lived in Japan. Like, we'd spent summers in Japan. I've been there a handful of times, and it's like simple, elegant, clean, minimalist vibe with the flavor. It just made too much sense.
And so I always ask folks, what do you think it is genetically that will make a plant taste exactly like it smells? Because that's not always the case, and it's very, sometimes hard to find.
Yeah. Well, see, the tragedy is like most people, we call like flavor and smell, and we just bunk it all into this category we call terps, right? Like, it's just an easy catch-all term. But what most people don't realize is like there's a ton of other flavor compounds that are as, if not more, responsible for the flavor and smell profile than just terpenes. There's esters, there's aldehydes, there's, these sulfur compounds, and we don't lab test for them. And like, there's terpenes that you could have a gallon of these and douse them on yourself and you wouldn't smell a goddamn thing. Like, they have no smell whatsoever. And then there's other terps and there's other aldehydes where one drop will clear out a fucking room. So everyone looking at these terp percentages going, oh, this is 3%. And it's like, well, okay, here's your flower has 5%. Mine has 0.5. Why is mine 10 times louder than yours? Right? So it's something to do with a lot of those other flavor compounds. Plus the dry, the cure, the overall health of the plant. There's so many factors that come into that.
So I would love to hear from you guys. Our audience is a lot of grow nerds. We have a lot of folks that grow that watch the show. So let's talk about growing. And I'd love to hear from you guys, Umami and Harrison. I'd love to hear from you both about your grow style. And how do you grow? Just tell us all about it. Do you grow in soil, hydro, what kind of lights, room situation, all about it?
Harry, why don't you start this one off?
It's Synganics, it's LEDs, it's mostly Rockwell. We've been doing a little bit of cocoa, but yeah, feeding salts and then feeding biostims, kelp, alfalfa, sugars, carbs. Just trying to give like a full, well-rounded diet, plenty of foliar sprays, but yeah, relatively higher intensity lights, not juicing them up way too high. We found there's kind of a limit with how high you bring PPFD and where quality ends up at the end. And we'll take less weight for higher quality always. So we've started to kind of bring it back more and more, not necessarily push our EC as high. It still gets stacked pretty high in your Rockwell, and we're measuring everything always. My brother's been working on an automation system. It can probably tell you a little bit about, but it's like every single environmental and irrigation control all together on one system on an app that you can change anything at any time. So it'll accurately read exactly what's going on in your media, exactly what's going on in your environment, and then make smart adjustments based on that. So we try to bring science into it. We try to bring just like old growing knowledge into it. We just we take best practices, Kaizen, the art of continuous improvement. You learn something new, you make an adjustment. So every round, trying to do something a little bit new, figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and then combining like the science that we know with the kind of still bro sciencey stuff that still we find out works, and figuring out like how those two meet.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's well said. So Neptune, what was it about Umami that was really attractive to you and what they bring to the table?
Oh man, things like that. Like I remember one of the things I like about Umami and their stuff is that we're all very close. So like I get their strains before anyone else. Like I remember Chase, what was that strain that you did? Fuck. That I just stole an eighth of over Christmas when you were in Utah. And I was like, called you, like, that's the best strain I ever smoked in my life, bro. What the fuck was that? It was like a Runz. It's like Runz Zoda or Runz Zucchi that you did with Watson. Like,
that was Z Clear.
Z Clear, yeah. Before that came out, I had that a year before, man. Like, I just stole it because he was gone. I was like, I'm taking it. Like, fuck you. I'm here in Utah. I'm not. So I'm taking this and smoking it. And like, I had it. It was amazing, dude. So it's like, I like him. I like the boys because they do their jobs, and they test things. They get it tested correctly, when it comes back. And then again, what I like about them, if something doesn't test well, they'll pull it. They won't. There's been releases that they pulled because they didn't like the way the trip profile came out. They didn't like the way there was maybe a higher herm ratio that they wanted to do. It shows integrity in the way they breathe. It shows integrity in the way they carry themselves. So it's an important thing, and they do their job. You know what I mean? Like I knew going into business with them that they were always going to do their job. They're always going to provide pictures. They're always going to provide all the information that as a seed bank we covet because it helps sales, obviously, and then it also helps, customer service, and then it gives the customers a better like a better foundation to do shit with. So like I really like working with them a lot.
It was like what I said earlier with the phenos. It seemed like that was some extra on their behalf. That was really cool.
Yeah, definitely, man. The phenos that they do are awesome. Oh, and then the other thing I really like about them too is like Harry was saying, he actually came over and like hooked up a new system at my house that they're working on, and it's working great. So like he was saying, dude, like everything that they're doing is really dope.
Awesome. Well, that's we'd love to hear about kind of your current lineup of strains. What's the terps like? We're always looking for things that taste or smell interesting. So just love to hear what's the kind of current lineup like, and what should we look for?
Yeah. So like, you mean seeds that are available now or stuff coming in the future?
Just kind of in your library, like what are the terp profiles that you've got on deck that you can pretty much serve to the people, at any time?
Man, you name it, bro. Like I'm a hoarder, so we've got.
Okay, so what's your most elusive terp?
That's actually a good question. The most elusive terp is probably the Zoda pheno that we run, which out of, I don't know, several, like, because Zoda is it's Skittles, Acai Gelato, and Seattle soda, and so it's a lot of like grape kind of funk, but more like on the lighter floral candy kind of side, which everybody likes. Although there was this one pheno in particular that it just smells like, and I honestly thought that it was a seed that had gotten stuck in the machine, from something else, because it's just so different from everything else. But the way it grows, it's dead on fucking Zoda. There's no way it's not. But it's just this rotten, putrid, like dead animal smoothie. Like it just has this awful stench. But it's like that smell that, like, I mean, like kind of that skunky sour where you just like, you can't not keep smelling it. It's just
Kinda like
so,
that.
it's super hard to describe, but it just has this like intoxicating, like, you shouldn't, like, if it wasn't weed and you smelled that smell out and about, you'd be like, oh, that's poison, or like, oh my God, that's like, that'll kill you. But because it's, it's flower. So it's just so different. It's so good.
Yeah, I'm always curious about that because I think that, as things kind of move forward, and Mark, you could kind of speak to this, that it's like the ones aren't really going to be as much into the play as what kind of buffet you can offer as far as, terp scale, because the consumer is getting exposed to so many different profiles now that they're able to go to dispensaries and get 31 flavors if they can get flavor out of it. But anyways, that's another subject. But, I think it's interesting that, I feel like those one flavors that just dominate an entire market maybe aren't going to be as prevalent as much as for a breeder to have, multiple offerings so that you do have your different side of that. What do you think, Mark?
I think you're 100% correct. I think that breeders are going to start doing a lot more inbreeding and turning their own products and finding their own unique terp profiles and own unique flavors. And I think that this business, if it's going to survive as a business, it needs to do that.
Yeah.
I think that, and you're seeing this now. A lot of breeders are exiting the business because it's actually work. It's becoming work. You can't just slap a logo on something and then release seeds. It's becoming
Yeah.
you're gonna have to find males constantly. You're gonna have to breed for terp profiles. You're gonna have to breed for certain things. Like Chase was saying, that dead pheno, that dead meat pheno, which he still won't share with me because he's a asshole. But yeah, like, you know what I mean. But like, there's those things, and you're finding breeders who have things like that. Like Kaya has an amazing coffee selection, that he's found over the years and he's worked with and things like that. And like Humboldt Seed Organization has this amazing Amherst Sour Diesel pheno and this I forgot, it was Godbud or some purple pheno that they've been working with that they're constantly finding and stuff like that. And I think that's what a breeder needs to do. It's like, do your job, find something cool, find something to make somebody want to fuck with you, So, but I'm also seeing a lot of sours come back. Thank God. We're seeing a lot of sours come back into play. I think the candy days are starting to want me.
Yeah, I like it in my selection, but it's not something I want all the time.
Candies, especially in LA, man, it's just really like, I think it's had its day in the sun, and I think it's the sun setting on all the candy terps now. And because I think a lot of people sacrificed the balance of power over the look and the flavor. Everybody wants their weed to be super Instagrammable, but a lot of people didn't want it to be powerful. So I think, like that's why people are starting to go back to OGs and to sours.
Yeah.
Get a little bit more hard hitting in there.
So with Umami, do you guys do tester programs and use the community to help do pheno hunts, or how does your community engagement work out?
Yeah, I mean,
Harrison, go ahead and take that one.
Yeah, Harry runs most of that off of Discord.
Yeah, we've done a few rounds of it now, mostly through Discord, but basically we send out coded seeds to people for them to grow, and then we don't tell them the strain that they have until they've completed a grow log at the end. So we bring them on as testers and give them kind of certain things we're looking for in a grow log, and then they'll grow them and post all that to Discord, and everyone can see what everyone else is growing, and you can see people who have the same number as you or numbers similar. And people are starting to figure out the code a little bit, but it's still coded. So when you're looking at the strain and you're growing it, you don't have any preconceived notions. Like if we give you a Trop Cookies cross, you're just going to be looking for Trop and smelling Trop, if that's what it is. But if you don't have any idea, you could find something totally different. So it also helps us rather than just give people seeds for them to shelf them. You just know like a 3-digit code for some seeds in a bag. It doesn't really mean anything. So it's worked out well for us, and yeah, we'll keep doing it in the future. Have probably 250 active testers right now. So
and I think
constantly growing. And then
I think that's powerful, especially if they have media presence like on Instagram and other platforms, where they're able to, showcase some of some of their findings and some of their work. And I think that's probably valuable for you guys too. When you're having them do their testing, and they're doing these logs, are they like the app logs where they go in and they post pictures and do their daily app kind of entries? Or are they just like a traditional log?
We try to make it pretty simple for them. Honestly, we have just a little Google form that we send at the end that has like 10 questions, and we just kind of want to know the parameters that they ran them through, like how they did, how the flavors were, and then some good photos. So we try to not make it too much work, and I feel like that helps the testers like want to do more. It gets kind of daunting when you have to do like a grow log every day. Like that's a lot of extra work you're adding on for just testing for someone.
When it's like, it's too much data, like I don't need an everyday picture, like a veg pic, of like the same plant for 15 days in a row. Like it's just like a waste. And like the best testers we have are really active on the Discord, and like they're posting pretty like very regularly. And we get updates of everything. So like through the process, we have a ton of info that's all centralized, which is great. So we can see it and everyone else in the tester network can see it. And then at the end, it's more like the grow report, right? We get the summary, which that's the bulk of the data that gets aggregated. So we can actually decide, is this viable for release? Because our process takes like from conception to seed drop is 18 months, realistically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say probably 90% of it doesn't make it through. 95%.
Yeah, and then on top of that, it takes time for that to get, into the market in a way that people kind of get turned on to it. So by the time you have a variety that starts really being a banger, it can be like a 3-year, sometimes or more process, correct?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Everyone wants our firewater right now, and we released those seeds in like 2017, 2018, and we get asked like every day, like, "Oh, when's the firewater coming?" Like, "Oh, it came and it went, long gone."
I got a pack.
That's brilliant. It came, bro. You missed the train. That's nice.
I'd love to hear you guys. So I oftentimes when we have breeders on the show, we get questions about their strains that they're growing. So I'd love to hear some recommendations that you guys have for just like kind of typical scenarios. So, whether it's someone who's looking for something maybe more on the pain relieving side, if you have something that's helpful for that, or if you are looking for something that's maybe more uplifting. I'd just love to hear from you guys, like what sort of strains you suggest people check out. Because like I said, oftentimes when people watch these sorts of interviews, they want to go in and look up your stuff and they're not really sure what to go by, basically. So I'd love to hear what you guys recommend.
Yeah. So, I mean, the premise or the preface to this answer is like all of our seed drops are single batch only. And when they sell out, they're gone forever. And so that's one of the reasons everyone's like trying to get on that firewater tip is like those sold out a long, long time ago. So if you see something, snag it because it, almost certainly will not be available in the future. So all my answers are going to be based off of what is like presently available. But with all that said, like Cheetah Chew is super, super fire, super calming, very euphoric. If you were on like a pain relief, some of those rainbow sugar phenos are really, really heavy hitting as well. For more like uplifting, floral, like very mental clarity, euphoria, Senpai is really rock solid. Same with like Zello or Momochi. Harry's probably a better person to ask. Like I breed, like again, the flavor and nose. Like I'm breeding for flavor before anything else, and so I really leave it up to like other people to help me understand which of our releases help them with, you know, whatever it is that it might help them with. And like everybody's body chemistry is different. So like, you know, the whole indica sativa vibe, which, you know, those terms don't mean anything. They were made in like way before we actually had proper classifications for these plants. And like, okay, OG Kush makes you sleepy. It's an indica. That's not true for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, foam has, you know, really potent. Any of the Z Claire crosses, that's going to be our next probably line that we release will be the Z Claire Femmes. Those are all really potent. But I mean, kind of like Chase said, everything is like flavor first. That's what we do. Like it's all flavor over everything. We try to get really crazy with the terp descriptions. And if you read like what we write about them, sometimes they get a little lost in translation and people are like, whoa, that sounds really crazy. I don't even know if I want to smoke that. But for us, it's like the only way to describe things you haven't smelled before. And that's what like, you know, Umami Terps is all about, finding those smells that are inexplicably delicious and you haven't experienced before.
Yeah, I love that. I like selecting for flavor because at the end of the day, I want it to taste good. It's always a disappointment when you smell that flower that's just so amazing, and then it just tastes really flat. Like there's just kind of nothing there. And I've always wondered about that because like you mentioned before, you know, all the other volatile sulfur compounds and esters and all of that. You know, it's like we're at such an infancy of understanding what that all brings to the table in an entourage way, you know, not just like, you know, flavor and nose, but just like medicinally or therapeutically. You know, we're just now in the beginnings of all that. And I think it's awesome that you guys select for those profiles. Now, you mentioned earlier that you felt like breeding males back into your fem projects brought a little something to the table. And I've always been trying to wrap my head around, like, what does that male chromosome bring that just two genetic codes between two females can't bring? And so if you could maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've noticed that reg seeds tend to be a little bit more vigorous and a little bit hardier than fem seeds. And I'm not
with a lower
sure.
chance of herming, I'd say too.
Not really. In my like honestly, if you do your fems correctly and you don't like juice them with whatever reversal method you're doing and you know stress them beyond all belief, like there's you know there's like very little proof that fem seeds have a higher propensity for herming than reg seeds. It's really based off of their genetic predisposition to that. I mean, the big reason that I started doing the breeding method that we did is because I never wanted to take two people's stuff, make a cross, and then sell it as my own, unless it's like a very special project for whatever reason. I thought if we're going to put our name on it, I want to have the integrity of we made a hybrid and then we've taken at least 50% of our own genetics, which we made, and then crossed it with someone else's whatever. And that, you know, I felt was fine. And then running down that male line, it's just like, I mean, that Zucchi line, like I know that male like the back of my hand. You know, we've been running it for so long. The thing is bulletproof. Everything you cross with it comes out fire. It's what's called, I'm forgetting the name. 707 Seedbank had a name for it. I think he called it a blank male or something like that, where it imparts very little of its own characteristics. The only characteristics that it imparts are yield, structure, resistance, and that's pretty much it. Like it's not overpowering on the terp profile. So all it does is really amplify the effects of or amplify the best characteristics of the female. Yeah. And like I said, we find a female from that, then we'll do a reversal with that plant. But yeah, I can't definitively say if that's better or worse. I just didn't want to get down the pigeonhole of like fem on fem on fem on fem on fem on fem on fem. I just think eventually, so who's to say? Maybe there's no problem with that. I don't know. But I like the way that we do what we do. It's worked out so far. And that's why we do it.
That's crazy. So now that kind of brings on my thoughts about the triploids. What do you think about that kind of next buzz in the breeding world? Is that something you're ever going to fuck with, or do you not want to go down that route?
Oh man, I mean, probably. Triploids are like, I mean, a lot of people I've heard recently get kind of worried about it, and they're like, "Oh, triploids, and it's GMO, and it's this, and it's that," and like that's not true at all. There's not necessarily, you can genetically modify them to be triploids, but it's like people consume and utilize triploids every single day. Like 90% of seedless fruits are all triploids. And like, you're not getting cancer from eating seedless watermelon. So I don't hear people complaining, or fear mongering about that. I mean, I'm science first, very science forward. They are, as a breeder, it's somewhat beneficial where I could release seed, which will effectively render sterile females, and thus less likely for people to go and crossbreed, stuff that I put out. But that's never really been a concern of mine. I mean, probably something we'll play around with. I think it's cool. I definitely like anyone who's pushing the boundaries on the science side and doing something new and unique. And really, it'll come out to like, what does the market think? Do they like it? Is there a demand for it? Is it just a novelty? Speed up the process of getting there. But it's not something we've dabbled in just yet.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because we always have those kind of buzz things that happen in the community and in the industry that kind of get people talking. And so that's kind of been something that's been a hot topic this last month or so. And I just thought it was interesting, like you said, that, we eat bananas every day. So I don't see the big deal.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's super cool. Like I'm a big science fan. Anyone who's doing anything different and unique, I'm all about it. Push the limits, push the boundaries. Like I have a CRISPR kit that, we're going to goof around with on the cannabis side. And, I know a lot of people are really probably not going to like that. I don't know if those seeds will ever be released. It might just be because I like to nerd out on science. But we'll see.
If you can make every one of them taste exactly like they smell, man, you got it.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes down to nutrition.
Really?
Yeah, I think I've run every nutrient under the sun, like everybody's everything we've ran. I have ran all, like we formulated our own salts for a number of years from scratch. And the missing piece always was biostimulants, like plant-based biostimulants, kelp, alfalfa, cannonol, carb, sugars, aminos, like all that stuff. And so running just straight salt, you get like a good smell and you get an okay taste, but you have like no shelf. That stuff goes bad. Like there's no cure. By the time it's cured, it's terrible. It's still kind of smell okay, but it's just like flavor gone. Compared to running, a hybridized system with those biostimulants, it's just like there's no comparison. The flower is so much better. Agreed. And so I think partially it is genetic dependent because a lot of those more floral terpenes are just eviscerated at high heat. And so regardless of the way the only way you're going to be able to taste those is, with really, really low temp, vaporizing, which again, you'd only be able to get if you did like a low temperature solvent extraction, because a lot of those monoterpenes are water soluble. So if you run water hash, gone, they're on your cold, in the freeze dryer, or they got dumped down the drain from all your water. You're not collecting those back. So but I think primarily, I think it's nutrition, at least 70% of it.
Yeah, I was wondering about genetic code, what that has to play in those genetic expressions, and then, like you said, what you're giving it, how much can you really coax out of it. So next, I guess we'll move on and talk about the impact of selecting for the wash. We had Mark on previously, and he had mentioned a lot of people are kind of moving in that direction. Is that something that's in your now priority of selection?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it has been for a while. I mean, both of the Swish and the Zoda were both selected as reversals. I mean, not primarily, but they won out over other selections due to the fact that they both do wash really, really well. I mean, I don't see any negatives for crafting cultivars that wash really great. And the nice part about breeding for flavor is that we sort of inadvertently bred for larger trichome heads, which can accommodate more terpenes and aldehydes and esters and those VOCs. And then, that also ended up increasing the THC levels, and we've got lab tests. I just got back from Canada, and we've got a group up in Victoria that's running, our G63, and it came out at, 37 or 38% total cannabinoids with 4.9% terps. And it's a dumper. They all wash great. So washing is a big part of what we're doing. We test wash everything that we have. And then I'm pretty much only reversing cultivars, which will wash at least at the 4.5% range.
Wow. Yeah.
Because it's
just smart. I mean, you just got to be flexible with the market. And that was another thing, Harrison, you had mentioned about some of the tech that you guys are using in the grow room. Have you guys looked at any of the AI assisted tech in the AI cameras and in that?
Oh yeah, Chase, you have to tell them about your system a little bit.
Yeah. So Harry, I I got sick of using everybody's systems, just because they're all neutered, Trollmaster and GrowLink and Roya and everything. And it's just all those companies own your data. And I was not about that. So I learned how to code and, built my own system from scratch. So, and I've looked at implementing AI stuff into it, but the problem with AI, at least for our practices, at least now, I'm sure this will change in the future, is that all AI models are trained off of available data on the internet. And since the internet is rife with just bro science and a bunch of fucking bullshit, all the AI models result in a ton of nonsense that's just completely fucking useless. So until I have enough data aggregated in my system that I can train my AIs internally, that's not going to be something we'll use yet. But the way that my systems are built, they are smart and self-correcting. So for example, on the irrigation system, the way it runs is it runs off a basic premise of crop steering. It's okay, we're going to feed and we're going to irrigate at 2% drybacks or 5% drybacks or whatever. So I just hit the space bar and it runs. And in an irrigation event is scheduled, the system will read the moisture level and then go, the dryback hasn't reached the parameter we need. And so it skips that. Or if, for example, there's not an irrigation event scheduled, at least not for another half hour or whatever, but the dryback hits the number, then it will click on and then change its change its settings. So it does adapt and can kind of like predict what's going to happen, but that's not AI. That's just clever code.
Well, you use AI to write the code, though. That's ChatGPT to write the code.
Yeah. No, I mean, ChatGPT is definitely helpful with like generating a bunch of the code, but it's like, yeah, for simple things, yes, but anything that's like slightly too advanced, ChatGPT just like, and the more I've used it, the more I've realized just how much it sucks. Because like it'll give me, like, especially math-based stuff, it gives me the wrong answer like constantly. And like if you don't know enough about like the equations that you're asking it to do to help speed up your process, and you just go, oh yeah, okay, then ChatGPT says 4.2, and like away you go. Yeah, you always got to double check its math. It ends up being like it doesn't speed my process up at all. Sometimes it does, but right now it's kind of been like, I was really excited about it and it works well for certain things, but for other stuff, it's just like, you gave me the wrong answer. Please give me a new answer. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And then it gives you the same wrong answer again. You were wrong. Yeah. So like, give me any answer aside from the wrong answer that you've given me now twice. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Let's do the math again. And they give you the same wrong answer a third fucking time. And you just want to like smash your computer. You're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I don't want to yell at the AI because it as soon as it takes over and it comes to my house,
that's
like,
going to
That's right.
The AI model, like fucking, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, you don't ever piss off Siri. She'll make you have bad directions and horrible service.
Yeah, like I don't welcome our robot overlords, but hopefully I get to be like a pet. Not like a fucking battle.
So, speaking of the feature, we're coming up on the last couple minutes on the show. We'd love to learn, are you guys going to any sort of events this year? What's this? And then also, beyond events, kind of what's this year have in store for you guys? What should people look out for?
Harry, what's our event catalog right now?
Secret Stash in Colorado is definitely groovy gravy happening. I don't think we're going to do Spannabis this year, but we're definitely going to be there next year. BizCon in Vegas, and then probably trying to do a lot more like local LA, Southern California stuff. We're going to be launching on the rec market in probably the San Diego area here in 6 months or so. So just growing,
So last year they had the ZA Olympics. Did you guys participate in that at all? Because I happened to be in LA for that, and it was actually a really good time.
No, I think we'll be there, but we haven't competed before.
You guys go to Watson? I thought you guys hung out with Watson when you were there.
No, that was Trans Bay. We'll probably do that again. Trans Bay Challenge, the Jimmy Devine thing.
Yeah, was that was up in San Francisco, wasn't it? I can't remember where that was.
They do them all around. Yeah, they did a San Francisco one. They did an LA one. Like I think they're doing a Barcelona one for So
that's cool.
Have they announced any dates for Secret Stash? Is it still summer?
Yeah, it's June sometime. Around the 20th of June.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, if you follow us on Instagram, we'll always post like where we're going, where we're at. We're gonna try to do a bunch more events this year. And like I said, we've got a new cultivation partner for California. So hopefully we can do some more like flower and hash events and try and go win some more cups if it can get us up into the 30s, because I think we're at like 28 or 29 at this point, which is
wow.
Awesome. Well,
that's amazing.
You make sure to shout out your social media handles, your websites, or anything like that people could follow you at and check you guys out if they want to learn more.
Yeah. So there's only 2 accounts on Instagram, and there's like 50 fucking scammers. So the main one is Umami Seed. So UMAMISEED with no plural. And then Harry runs the other one, which is Umami Seed _S. There's Umami.seeds, that's a scammer. Umami, any like misspelling is always a scammer.
It's kind of a different way of getting your face and getting your brand out there. And I think the future of media is where it's at, and so to have 10,000 people sit and listen to you talk for an hour, that's an amazing thing. And so I think that's a good move. And I think the more you guys can document what you do and what you bring to the table, what the brand is, the better. And I know that's a whole nother gauntlet of shit to add to the plate.
Yeah, no, I just got to carry the tripod around everywhere I go and film, 'cause it's not like I'm not doing anything special. It's just like, remember to film all the stuff that you're doing, which now I still suck at it. So every task takes me like 5 times as long because I got to film it. And then Harry has to edit because I got too much on my plate. But yeah, so also, our website, umamiseedcompany.com. It's getting revamped right now. It should be done, I don't know, in a couple weeks, but it's live there, and we've got all of our links on there: Discord, Telegram, plug to Neptune. Patreon is coming out. We're gonna have a bunch of cool shit there. Like, I mean, we're really pushing sort of all the relevant social medias, and just trying to have a lot more like cool engagement this year with people, because they're like, what we do is cool. People want to see it, and so it's like we want to show it, because it's fun and it's cool to engage with people who are smart and also like it, and bring something else to the table, help inspire us to like come up with new shit or be better at what we do, because the last thing I want to do is be like the fucking smartest guy in the room. You're in the wrong room.
Yeah, I hear that.
I never worry about that.
Well, we should wrap up the show here. We've got a storm hitting us on the West Coast right now, and I know that my internet blipped out there for a second, so if you saw my camera cut out a couple times, apologies for that. But thank you so much for joining us today, guys. We really do appreciate your time. It was really great to meet you and hear your story. As always, thank you, Neptune, for hanging out with us today. We really appreciate it. If you want to hear more from Neptune, we've got multiple episodes with him. We did one in December where we were talking about Neptune of the North, and we had him and Tiki on the show, and we also had just an episode with straight up with just Neptune. Those are all great episodes, so make sure to search those up and look those up on YouTube or on Spotify, things like that. So thank you so much for watching us, guys. Again, thanks to our supporters like Neptune Seedbank. We really appreciate their support for helping make this show possible. Thanks to the Cannabis community. And as always, JR,
Growers
growers
love.
love.